now recording and admitting all people in the lobby.
All right, I guess I'll get started. Good morning. This meeting of the Agricultural Labor Relations Board is called to order. Please note that all meeting participants and members of the public will need to select the language they prefer to listen to the meeting with. Please look at the bottom of the screen and select the interpretation button on the bottom right. Please click on that and you can select either English or Spanish. Even if you can hear me now, you need to select your preferred language to ensure that you are able to hear the audio for the duration of the meeting. I will give you a minute for the interpreter to relay this information.
Good morning, Santiago. I believe our interpreter is in the separate channel, so give me just a moment.
Let me know when we're ready to move on.
Hello, Ashley, are you able to hear me?
I can hear you.
Thank you. Chair Lightstone, you're clear to move forward.
Okay, next I will turn to the roll. This is a very happy moment for us. There are 4 board members in the room here in Sacramento. Member Broad. Here. Member Flores.
Present.
Member Hall.
Present.
And Chair Lightstone is here. So and also present from our staff for today's meeting is Executive Secretary, Mr. Santiago Avila Gomez. You hear his voice from time to time. We are living in rapidly changing times, and the board is committed to taking the steps necessary to protect the health and safety of both our staff and members of the public. Thus, in accordance with Executive Order N2920, today's meeting is being held via video conference with an option for members of the public to dial in. The final item of the agenda is public comment on any portion of the meeting. Members of the public who have contacted the board either by email or phone and asked to be placed in the public comment queue will be called on in the order received. If you did not previously contact the board and wish to make a public comment at the end of the meeting today, you may do so in one of several ways. You can make a request in the Zoom chat function or raise hand, or you can email Santiago Avila Gomez to be placed in the queue for public comment. Please note that we ask you to use the chat feature only to indicate that you wish to make a comment. Substantive comments in the chat will not be made part of the public record. We ask that you also provide your name and organization if applicable. This information will become part of the official record of today's proceedings. If you wish to speak more than once, please alert the staff and have your name placed back in the queue if you are able. If you have technical difficulties when you are called upon, please reach out to us via the Zoom chat function or email and we'll come back to you. We have limited capabilities for managing participation during the meeting and during the public comment period. So we're asking everyone who is not speaking to place their phones or Zoom on mute and to wait to unmute until you are called upon to speak. You can also see these instructions on our agenda, which is posted online at alrb.ca.gov, which is located on the ALRB homepage under News and Information. And finally, I want to note, in case any of you are joining this meeting for purposes of the discussion of regulations from the Regulations Subcommittee, that is not going to be taken up today. The Regulations Subcommittee matters will be taken up in the February meeting. So if that's why you're here, you should just be aware of that. Okay, I'll give the interpreter a moment and then, did you want to add something?
No.
Oh, okay. So next item 2 on the agenda is approval of the minutes.
So we want to talk about
the deaths?
Well, that comes in a minute.
Okay, all right.
Okay. So we have a motion to approve the minutes from the October 12th
Second.
meeting. We have a second. Let's take the roll. So Member Hall?
Aye.
Member
Aye.
Flores? Member Braun?
Aye.
And Chair Lightstone, aye. The minutes are approved. The next item is approval of the regional director meeting minutes. May I have a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll move that.
Okay,
Second.
second. We'll call the roll. Member Hall?
Aye.
Member Flores?
Aye.
Member Braun?
Aye.
And Chair Lightstone, aye. So those are approved. Next, we're going to move to the chair report. Okay. I'm presently acting chair while the ALRB's regular chair, Victoria Hasid, is on parental leave. Victoria will be returning to chair our February meeting. First item in the chair's report is I would like to extend the board's best wishes to our staff throughout California who work hard throughout the year to implement the Agricultural Labor Relations Act. These are challenging times, and our staff has continued working hard to protect the rights of farmers under the Act and to administer the law fairly and justly for all parties. And I want to thank the staff and wish you all a happy holiday. Next, I would like to take a moment to remember that we recently lost Don Villarejo, a monumental leader in researching farm workers in California agriculture. Dr. Villarejo founded the California Institute for Rural Studies and generated comprehensive research that has informed the work of those involved in California agriculture, including the legislature, unions, growers, and the board. With a PhD in physics from the University of Chicago, he began that unlikely journey in the 1970s when he recognized the need for research into the conditions of California farm workers and farms. We will miss him greatly.
And I wanted to mention the passing last week of Patrick Henning. Patrick Henning was a member of this board in the 1980s, but had a long career in addition in public service, working for the legislature, for the administration and in executive positions. He was a member of a kind of storied family of California, the Hennings. His father, Jack Henning, was the head of the California Labor Federation for many, many years. His son, Patrick Jr., just until a few years ago, was the EDD director and a former legislative advocate for the laborers union. And I knew Pat very well over many decades. He was a really, really wonderful man. So he will be missed.
Thank you for that.
I'd also like to say that in the course of trying to look up Pat's service here, we don't, one thing we should probably undertake as a project is we don't actually have a list of all the members of ALRB going back to the beginning, all the executive secretaries, all the general counsels. And I think that it would be good from just a historical perspective to, because some pretty interesting people, you know, from the Archbishop of Los Angeles, who was the first chair of the ALRB, to all sorts of people have been on this board or been in these appointed positions. And it would be good to know our history and for people to be able to look it up and maybe get a short biography of each of the members and, you know, their terms. I think it's just something that we should do, and it's probably not, you know, out of reach. It's something that could be done. So I'd like to just suggest that.
I feel I hear a consensus in the room, so I think we should make that happen with our administration. Thank you for that suggestion. So I guess I'll move on to the executive officer's report. Santiago?
Here, thank you. So the report covers the period from our last public board meeting to the present and covers election activity on for labor practice complaints and hearings. With respect to election activity, there's been none. Complaints and make whole specifications, there's been one each. A complaint filed in Coast King Packing LLC in Monterey County on October 28th. A make-whole specification was filed yesterday, and Gerwan Farming, Inc. Continuing with complaints settled and withdrawn, there's been one complaint settled, Sweetwood Farm, Inc. Parties entered into an informal bilateral settlement agreement on October 26th. And there were 3 complaints withdrawn, 1 Braden Farms, 2 Anthony Vineyards, Inc., and 3 Nunes Vegetables, Inc. With respect to hearings and administrative law judge decisions, an ALJ decision issued on October 27th at Cinegrove Farms, Inc. Turning to board decisions, administrative orders, and pending matters, there were no board decisions issued. There were 2 administrative orders issued, one in Lily's Green Garden, Inc. The board issued an order granting general counsel's request for judicial enforcement of subpoena. 2, Gerwin Farming, Inc. The board issued an order certifying good cause exists to exceed time limit and ALRA section 1149.3. Finally, pending matters before the board are the Cinegrove Farms, Inc. matter that came up from the administrative law judge. Briefing is complete in that matter as of yesterday, December 13. And the second is in Rincon Pacific. The Salinas Regional Director requests for certification of good cause to exceed time limit in ALRA section 1149.3 relating to the board's decision in 46 ALRB number 4. That concludes my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions from the board? Not seeing any. Thank you again. Next item on the agenda is the litigation report. Todd?
Hi, good morning. I submitted a report which is available on the board's website. There are 2 updates to report on. For this meeting, we have 2 matters in the 5th District Court of Appeal that will be heard in oral argument in the next couple months. The Wonderful Orchards case seeking review of our decision in 46 ALRB number 2 will be heard on January 25th. And the other matter, which will be set on the court's February calendar, involves the UFW's petition for review of the board's decisions in 45 ALRB numbers 4 and 8. So that's
Okay, thank you. So we have a busy appellate calendar coming. Okay, thank you. Now we turn to the next item on the agenda, which is the general counsel's report. Julie?
Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to see that all of our available board members are together in Sacramento. That hasn't happened for quite a while. So good morning and good to see you all. So as usual, I'll start my report highlighting a few settlements that we've achieved since the last board meeting. First of all, our Salinas region and Santa Rosa office achieved a settlement for a wine grape grow worker in Sonoma County who filed a charge against Sutter Home Winery, alleging that they retaliated against her and others by terminating her employment after they complained about supervisor mistreatment and favoritism. The company entered into a pre-complaint settlement with the ALRB to compensate the worker for all of the back pay she was owed, which was $1,751. They offered her reinstatement, and they also agreed to the standard noticing remedies and the supervisor training. And then our Visalia region also achieved a settlement for a tomato worker in Merced and Fresno counties who filed a charge against Sweetwood Farms, claiming that the company terminated him in retaliation for requesting breaks during extreme heat on behalf of the workforce and for also requesting standby pay. The ALRB investigated these allegations, found cause to believe that a violation occurred, and filed a complaint. And that case was set for hearing this fall, but we settled the case with a company prior to the hearing for back pay, front pay, and interest owed to the worker in the amount of $3,596, as well as standard noticing and mailing remedies. And additionally, just a staffing update I'll go over is that we did hire an attorney and a staff services analyst who have begun their employment in our Salinas office since the last board meeting. And we are currently seeking to hire and fill some vacant positions for attorneys in Salinas, Visalia, and Santa Rosa in our regional offices. So please, everyone here, spread the word. The postings are on our website, and let people know. We also are recruiting and seeking to hire a Visalia regional director. So that position is posted. So please spread the word there. That is a very, of course, as everyone knows, a very key position at the ALRB and runs the entire Visalia region. And we are also looking for an Oxnard legal secretary, an analyst at our Sacramento office for the general counsel program. And finally, this position was just posted the other day, is an outreach specialist for our Salinas region. And that's someone who would focus exclusively on outreach for that region in that area. So if you, again, please help us in spreading the word, and you can check our website under job opportunities to see those postings. So I'll now move on to a few outreach highlights that our outreach team has accomplished along with the regional office staff. They attended 14 in-person events during the last couple of months and distributed approximately 3,500 of our outreach materials that we produce specifically to give people rights, farm workers rights about their rights in the ALRB, as well as COVID-19 related rights in the workplace and resources. So we distributed those at farm worker housing complexes, food distributions, community resource fairs, with a variety of different nonprofit community-based organizations in their offices, and then also at the 42nd annual Farm Worker Appreciation Breakfast in Calexico, which ever since I've been at the ALRB, almost 5 years, we've attended every single year. We've had staff there, and I believe ALRB staff's been going there for many, many years. And this year was no exception. It was different given the pandemic, but they still had a good turnout of farm workers, and they were there until I think they told me like at least 5 or 6 in the morning giving out food. They went from like 1 a.m. to 5 or 6 a.m. giving out food and information to farm workers. And we also conducted 3 Spanish and Indigenous language radio presentations, and we collaborated with staff from Cal OSHA, as well as staff at the Department of Fair Employment and Housing. And I believe they with DFEH, they spoke about farm worker sexual harassment and also rights under the Agricultural Worker Labor Relations Act. And we also did a live radio interview with La Cooperativa Radio Bilingüe in both Spanish and Mixteco. And we also did a social media presentation with the Department of Fair Employment and Housing with Radio Indígena. So that, and then finally, we conducted 11 presentations for worker groups, community-based organization, employer groups, and service providers. And that included a few of our state partners, such as we trained staff at the Department of Fair Employment and Housing. We conducted a supervisor training to farm labor contractors hosted by Imperial County's Agricultural Commissioner in Calexico. We also conducted a joint multi-organization training of many community-based organizations together with Cal OSHA and some other community organizations regarding servicing farm workers and farm worker rights. And a number of others. So that sums up some of our outreach activities. And again, that's just in the past 2 months since our last board meeting in October. So if there are any questions, I can take them. That otherwise concludes my report.
Thank you, Julie. Do we have any questions here at the board? Well, thank you for all, and thank your staff for all that outreach work. That's quite a report. And
Sure thing. And I
you're
just
doing all
want
that
to,
outreach.
oh, absolutely. And I just want to, again, give kudos to the General Counsel Program staff that has continued to be out there and go out in the community. It's been increasingly difficult for farm workers to come to us, given the pandemic and all the stresses and pressures they're under. So I'm going to just give a shout out to our staff who have continued to be out there and visible in the communities and having a presence there so that we can make sure people know what their rights are and how to access us. And they're continuing the good work despite all the challenges that exist. So I'm very grateful to our staff for all their hard work.
And we are as well. Thank you to staff. It's really great job, and it's really critical, particularly in these times, I think. Thank you. Okay. We'll move on to the Division of Administrative Services report. Brian?
Good morning. I've just got a few brief updates from the Administrative Services Division. We have completed our portion of ALRB's budget for the governor's budget for fiscal year 22-23 that will be included as part of the larger budget package that will be released publicly on January 10th. So at our next board meeting, I'll be able to go over the kind of the details of that budget once it's become public. In addition, we will be working for the next board meeting to have our kind of mid-year projections. At that point, we'll have had 6 months worth of expenditures. So we'll be able to do a projection to determine exactly what the available funds will be remaining for the rest of the fiscal year so that we can begin priority spending plans to ensure that all of ALRB's funding needs are being met. I would also like to highlight we are still actively recruiting for a budget analyst to replace Jenna Lane, who left several months ago. So to the extent you know anybody that would be interested in learning more about budgets and kind of has a knack with spreadsheets or a fiscal background, I'm happy to teach them the ins and outs of state budgeting. It's been a while since I've had to do this hands-on, but it's been a learning process for me, but would appreciate you spreading the word to the extent you know anybody that may be interested in such a position. And lastly, I'd like to kind of highlight Rafael Diaz and some of the accomplishments he's been able to finish in our IT support for ALRB. You may be aware that about a month ago, he was able to successfully integrate Microsoft Teams with our VoIP phone system, which is a huge undertaking in part because it now allows us to meet the needs of our hybrid workforce a lot more effectively, which means when somebody calls your desk phone number, not only will your desk phone ring, but it will now also ring in Microsoft Teams so that you can, on your laptop, so you can have the ability to answer the phone from either your laptop or your office phone. So depending on whether you're at home or in the office, you can be able to receive those phone calls and take those live. And it also allows you to dial out through your computer as well to make phone calls when working remotely. So a lot of appreciate his efforts in getting that done. And it was something that George Okamoto, our LWDA CIO, was very impressed with, because we're one of the few departments of our size that's been able to successfully roll that out. With that, happy to answer any questions that anybody may have.
Any questions here at the board? None from me, other than to send my thanks along to Raphael. He's done a amazing job. He's got a big job, statewide organization, and he's a one-person unit here. He's done a lot for us. I really appreciate that. Okay. Well, with no other questions, let's move on to the legislation report. Todd, I think that's back to you.
Yes, thank you. There's currently no legislative activity concerning any bills that have been introduced that would amend the act. So nothing to report on legislation.
Okay, any questions? Okay, then I'll bring it back to us. As I mentioned, the next item on the agenda, it states on the agenda, but I just want to restate it that the regulations will be the regulation work that we're doing will be discussed at the February board meeting. So that's all there is on that item. Now we come to item 10, which is personnel. Are there any? Santiago, are there any personnel items?
There are no personal items in the board or the executive secretary, and I believe the general counsel mentioned some personnel moves, and I think that covers that section.
Okay, any questions? Okay, we now come to the part of the agenda, item 11, public comments. We welcome public comments. Be advised that the board is unable to adjudicate, comment, or resolve any pending case matter before the board. I'll ask Santiago to go first through the queue and then open it up. If you have technical difficulties or miss your turn, we will work to come back to you. Please remember to be on mute unless you are speaking. Please state your name and affiliation for the record.
Reviewing the chat, I have not been contacted by anyone wishing to make public comment. Neither have I received a phone call or an email. At this time, it does not appear anyone is wanting to provide public comment.
Okay, well then we'll move on to the last two items. We don't really have anything under the announcements other than there will be we will issue a notice of our February meeting. And on the date and the specifics, and then I guess I will entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting unless somebody has anything else.
Yeah, just one.
Go ahead.
Yes, I just want to, excuse me, just acknowledge you for doing such a great job. I know this will be your last meeting before the chair returns. And so I just want to acknowledge you for great work that you've done as chair, and also want to thank the entire team here at ALRB for a tremendous year. Clearly it's been rough for a lot of us. Some of us have lost friends and family through this epic pandemic, if you will. And so I just want to thank you guys for seeing it through and staying the course and continue to show up and do a great job for the department. So that being said, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and I'll see you all next year. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, well, thank you. Appreciate that. I second that, the spirit of that comment. Happy holidays and Merry Christmas to everybody. So I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'll move that we adjourn.
Okay.
Second.
Okay.
Aye.
Member Hall, member Flores, member Rod, Lightstone, aye. The meeting is adjourned and the record is closed. Thank you all.
Thank you.